You're scrolling online and you see one of those so-called dark psychology tricks, and you kind of wonder, how is that actually supposed to work? Well, today we're going to deconstruct one of them. We're breaking down a playbook from a popular online source that claims it can give you the upper hand in a classic classroom moment. Okay, let's dive right in.
So, picture this. The bell's about to ring. You are seconds away from freedom. And then, that one person raises their hand and reminds the teacher to collect the homework that everyone else conveniently forgot about. That collective groan you hear, it's almost a physical thing. We've all been there, and it's the perfect setup for the psychological play we're about to walk through. So, what's your first instinct in that moment? For most of us, it's probably anger, right? Frustration. You might even join in on that big class-wide groan. Well, according to the source material we're looking at, that emotional reaction, that's the single biggest mistake you can possibly make. The argument is that reacting like that is how you instantly lose, because it just makes you look immature and totally out of control. So the source basically frames this as two different paths. On one side, you've got the normal reaction. You get angry, you groan, and you're labeled as the one who's immature. But then there's the other path, the proposed strategy, staying completely calm, totally in control, and, get this, wearing a pitying smile. The whole idea isn't to show that you're upset, it's to project this vibe that you are completely above it all. Now, the source we're analyzing calls this a dark psychology trick. For our purposes today, let's just go with the definition as it's presented there. Think of these as strategies designed to influence what someone thinks and does, but in a very deliberate, very calculated way. It's really all about scripting an interaction to get the exact outcome you're looking for. All right, so how do you actually pull this off? Well, the source lays out a really specific playbook. It's not just about what you say, it's about the how and the when. It's basically a two-part verbal attack designed for maximum impact with, believe it or not, minimum volume. Let's break down how this whole thing builds. Okay, so step one is all nonverbal. You look right at them, you've got that pitying smile, and you lean back in your chair all relaxed. This is all meant to project confidence and control before a single word is even spoken. Then comes the first verbal strike, and after that, the finisher, which you only use after they try to respond. And here it is, that first line. I hope that 5 seconds of validation was worth losing everyone's respect. It's a bold trade. Now, the key here isn't just to be insulting. It's all about reframing. The goal of this tactic is to completely redefine their action. It wasn't them being responsible, no. It was a pathetic cry for validation from the teacher, and it came at the cost of their social standing with everyone else. And here's a really critical detail. This is not some big public announcement. The source is very clear about this. You say this just loud enough for them to hear. See how that changes things? It goes from being a classroom outburst to a targeted, almost surgical verbal strike. It makes the whole thing personal and, according to the tactics logic, way harder for them to just brush off. Okay, so what happens when they try to defend themselves and the tactic assumes they will? Well, that's your cue. That is the exact moment you deploy the finisher. You wait for it and then you calmly whisper, "It's okay. I actually feel sorry that your self-worth is tied to a homework assignment." This line is designed to be the knockout blow. It turns their own self-defense into proof that your initial frame, that they're desperate for validation, was right all along. So, you've followed the script. You've delivered both lines. What's the point of all this? What's the ultimate goal? Well, the source is not subtle about the intended outcome here. It's not just about winning the moment. It's about achieving what you could pretty much call a social checkmate. And this just shows you how ambitious this tactic really is. The stated goal, and I'm quoting here, is to effectively erase their social status in a single sentence. I mean, that is an incredibly bold claim. It suggests that two perfectly timed, well-placed lines can completely dismantle a person's social standing within the group, all by reframing their motives and their character. All right, so let's just pull all of the pieces together and recap how this is supposed to work. First, by staying calm, you don't look immature. Second, you reframe your opponent's action as a desperate move for validation. This immediately positions you as the one who's calm and in control, while at the same time tying their action to a deep character flaw, low self-worth. When all these pieces work together, the intended result is to completely isolate the target socially. So when you strip it all down, what have we really been looking at here? It's a highly structured strategy that's all about verbal framing. It's about using very carefully chosen words to change the entire meaning of an event, to shift how everyone sees it, and in doing that, to fundamentally alter the balance of social power right there in that moment. And all of this leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to think about. You know, understanding tactics like this, it gives us a real insight into the mechanics of social dynamics. But it also forces us to ask ourselves, where's the line? At what point does the skill of social influence become a weapon? That's definitely something worth thinking about.